Very good morning to the eminent panelists, a lot of school principals, leaders. So I wish each one of you a very good morning. And on this day of 15th of May, 2020, I think this day will go down in the date in the history because, of course, we cannot start any dialogue these days without the mention of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has created an unprecedented times, and we are all working towards trying to see what are the different opportunities that we have. Like I think very interestingly, when Mr. Sachin and my team, we were working on this particular topic because I know each of you as principals and you're part of the Amity Academic Leadership Forum of K-12 schools. This is such a great time to do it because as we know that month of May is the World Mental Health Awareness Month. And what better can we do? Like you see, if you look at even their data, let's just look at the ICMR, they're saying 1 in every 7 Indians are vulnerable to mental health issues. And the stigma that is associated with this, the word mental health, although it is a very positive word, we are talking about psychological and emotional well-being. When you talk about mental health, it is primarily psychological and emotional well-being. So in this whole process, if you look at that, the school, because that is where most of your early years, the childhood is spent, and that's where the personalities are shaped. So students today not only are facing issues related to learning disability or students facing the issue of attention deficit, anger management. One of the things that I have noticed in my experience with working with a lot of school principals and leaders and the chairman of the schools is that are we really paying enough attention, or are we really looking at issues, the problems, but we are ignoring the people who are at the threshold? So the moment we see attention as a very big issue, we need to pay attention to that because leads to many more issues which will relate to learning disability. And I also want to highlight that we know very clearly that learning disability does not have direct relationship to the IQ. What means is if we help a student who has certain learning disability, their performance can still be very good. So are we as leaders of the school, as where we are creating a path where our students come out successful in lives? I am not even talking about the larger issues related to what students are undergoing in this era. We are talking about this era as we know that we are in a post innovation times. We are in a time where we are looking at lot of innovative practices that are happening, lot of ICT that has brought into the school learning, blended learning happening, looking at the situation of the present day where there is so much of students spending so much of time on internet. They're looking at attending classes online. Students who are appearing for board examination, they are facing a lot of issues because suddenly at the middle of their session, so a lot of their exams are still due. They are little unaware where they're going to go. So I think there are a lot of such issues that we really need to pay attention to. And I must put on record that at Amity University, Haryana, we not only have a very thorough and a rigorous programs that we offered in the area of psychology, and also we have a area where we're working on the clinical psychology. And even my students, people are doing their doctoral studies, working a lot in this area of anxiety, stress, primarily in the area of common mental health disorders, which really create majority of the issues. And I would be very keen to see what have been your experiences, what is your idea, and what are you doing as a leader in the schools? How are you helping your own children, I would say, in order for them to become into a good human being? So thank you very much. I'm really looking forward for this session today.
Yes, with COVID-19's advent, this problem has become even greater because the students have to face a lot of stress. We have the classes online now, and the students are at home, but then there are other problems also. Now, coming to Dr. Ashish Mittal. I just wanted to know that, since we know that students spend a lot of time on the campus and a lot of problems emanate from there, for mental issues. So, to what extent the school can give that support and make it a center for well-being for students?
Thank you, Dr. Reena, and thank you, Dr. Banerjee, for giving me this platform to share my views on a very important issue, that is the mental health of the children today. And as Dr. Banerjee has already mentioned, this is a very surprising element for all of us, that the mental health problems affect about 1 in 7 children and young people across the world due to depression and anxiety and conduct disorder, and are often a direct response to what is happening in their lives. Most children even grow up mentally healthy. But surveys suggest that more children and young people have problems with their mental health today than 30 years ago. That is probably because of changes in the way we live now and how that affects the experience of growing up. So that is a major difference, maybe what we can see according to the reports of different surveys and the researches that have been already been conducting throughout the world, across the country, even in India as well. So the emotional well-being of children is just as important as their physical health, because good mental health allows children to develop the resilience to cope with whatever life throws at them, and the ability to solve the problems. That is the most important part of the life. As we already study in the Socratic teaching also, that we should not give the children the solution of the problem. Even we should let them know how to cope up with the life, how to cope up with a different type of problem, and to how to solve according to the need of the instance, I must say. I would want to highlight a few things that can help keep children mentally well, such as number one point, which is also a very important point, being in good physical health, eating a balanced diet and getting regular exercise, which is usually not being observed in the children. Even in the school's life, we usually see that in the assemblies, students are not very built up, like to stand for an hour or for a half an hour. If sometimes we ask them to stand in the ground for the assemblies for an hour, it is very difficult for them to be there. This is just because of the balanced diets and the regular exercises. And another point, which is also one of the important points, being part of the family that gets along well most of the time. This is really a very severe problem for the today's generation, and feeling loved, trusted, understood, valued, and safe. Next point, which is also important, that being interested in life and having opportunities to enjoy themselves. These are most important points what I'm discussing here. Having a growth mindset, hopeful and optimistic, having the proper time and the freedom to play indoors and outdoors. I must congratulate the CBSE and other state boards also to make this kind of curriculum mandatory for all the schools. However, I know that some of the schools, even so many schools are there who have already made this kind of curriculum of the health and physical education compulsory in their schools, but there were several schools who are not actually following the guidelines even after implementing by the CBSE and other state boards as well. And another point, which is also important point to highlight over here, accepting who they are and recognizing what they are good at. Having a sense of belonging in the family, school, and community, which is also important. Feeling they have some control over their own lives. This kind of feeling, I feel that some of the students are not even able to understand what kind of feeling we have to control, what kind of emotions we have to control. We have that kind of control over some kind of emotions at times. This is quite important to know for all educational institutions such as schools, importantly, that there are certain risk factors in case such disorders and bad mental health are not identified and taken care of well in time. Yes, if we talk about that, to what extent schools can become centers for care and well-being, that was your question particularly, then I must say, after that, after parents, schools are the ones who play an important role to let the child grow with full zeal and with no limitations. School is the only place after the parents. I would like to give certain examples which will definitely boost up the well-being in the classroom, because teachers are the ones in the school who are the most trusted person in the world for a child, especially and specifically for small children. I should not claim this a statement for the senior kids in general, as the most trusted word for the senior kids, the younger ones, is their friends and the social media. I feel so. And the number point, that is what I am here to talk about. Number one is, I think this is just my suggestions. We should educate students about stress management. This is always being told that there are four important pillars, like four legs of a table for that. Those are like, one is food, exercise, sleep, and relaxation. These are like four legs of a table. If one leg of that table is weak, the table collapses. This is obviously, it is as simple as that to understand. Next is, teachers should be kind enough and empathetic. This is really important. They are contending with a lot, some more with others, and you don't know what is in their minds. Show that you care, you understand, that you want them to achieve. That we should show as a teacher. They may not show that they have noticed, but they have. Your genuine and honest support can make all the difference as a teacher. And we should never be biased for any children in the for any child in the class. And next point, which is also an important point, which is which you as a person being in the college also must be facing, that the students also have a phobia called exam phobia. After the mathematics phobia, exam phobia is also a very big phobia for today's generation, because sometimes what the teacher does in the class, they create a panic moment for the examinations. So teachers need to be very careful while giving messages about exams in the classrooms and the school. They should be told that the exams are one important step to certain types of success, which smoothen the path ahead, but not the only way who will decide your future. That they should be told very regularly and precisely. They should be told that success and failure are integral parts of our lives. We should never give up and keep trying to enjoy the rewards which we shall receive eventually. Next point, which is also an important point, and believe me, Dr. Reena, because I am, whatever the points I am discussing over here are being experienced and being running very nicely in our schools. And next point is which is the facilitate circle time. This is quite important, especially for the children who are introvert. Teachers should have all the lessons, whether at the start or in the end, with 5-minute silence, whether it is meditation or yoga, maybe music, no screen time, but obviously whichever is possible within the classroom setup. It depends on the infrastructure which is available in the school, so it may vary from the school to school. We all know that the brains process information better with rests when no more information is going in. And the next point, which is also an important point, I do not know whether you guys are aware or not, but this is quite important to share with all of you, that the value education integration in the curriculum is also the most important point, and the foremost important point, I must say, as per the present scenario. I would like to congratulate, first of all, Ramkishan Mission, especially to introduce the Awakened Citizen program, and CBSE also to make it an integral part of the school curriculum, preferably. The vision of the program, the Awakened Citizen program, is to truly empower the students and give them a new identity. Every student participating in the program should feel, at least in a small way, the extraordinary power and the strength which Swami Vivekananda talks about as inherent in every human being. This would enable definitely them to stand on their own feet, face challenges of life, and become truly enlightened citizens, irrespective of their academic achievements. Hardly matters. However, there are several more things which would definitely ensure the well-being of the children in schools, but I would urge parents also not to leave their children completely on the school, but understand their own responsibilities as parents and take care of their children with open arms. Good parenting also plays a pivotal role in the scenario, because sometimes what we usually observe, that the parents have left their children on the school, that this is your responsibility because we are working, husband and wife both are working. So they do not have usually the time to give to their children at home. So they are completely leaving their children depending on the schools. But I must say, Reena, here, the word mental health is not as simple as it seems. Sometimes we take it very granted in the school even. You will be amazed to know that the global economy loses about $1 trillion per year in productivity due to depression and anxiety. About half of mental disorders begin before the age of 14. Therefore, it should be taken care well by all. educational institutions. This report is the report which has already been given by the World Health Organization. So this is quite give us a food for thought that how serious we guys are taking the mental health at schools. I would like to conclude my answer with a very meaningful thought of the Swami Vivekananda. We want the education by which character is formed. We want the education by which character is formed. The strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand one's own feet. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Very well said. We know that there is, you talked about the importance of physical education. You talked about importance of values, and we all agree. Now I'll talk to Dr. Vasudha Neelmani. We just spoke about the importance of teachers, in students' mental health. And also we said that, some of the cases, don't come out in the open. So do you think that the teachers can be a referral point for mental health in schools?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And resonating with Dr. Banerjee, what she said, and of course, adding on to what Dr. Mittal also said. So my main point is that when we talk about teachers and students, so happy teachers lead to happy students, and happy students lead to happy teachers. So whatever I am going to share with you today is all what we are practicing in our schools. As Dr. Banerjee also said that, she wanted to know that how the schools, we are practicing all these things in school. But we all are here, and I think that, yes, this month marks the Mental Awareness Month, and we are talking about it. It is a great initiative taken by MIT University. I must congratulate you for that first. But having said that, yes, the times are challenging, times are tough for all of us. And rather than, telling our students to be prepared for having stress management, but resonating the thought of Sadhguru, I was just hearing one interview which he gave long ago, many years ago, and he said that we manage things that are close to our heart. We manage our money, we manage our family, we manage time, we manage children, and then we talk about managing stress. So as human beings, we have so much taken into consideration that stress is part of our lives. So rather than having the things of doing stress management, we must be preparing our students or young generation into compassionate, positive human beings who can accept and take on the challenges of life very, very easily. Now, for that, it percolates down from the management, any school management. So I represent my 3 schools here. So one of the school is a 30-year-old school in Udaipur. So wherein we are very, very sure about it, strong about it, and we have all the 3 schools are based on these 8 principles, and those 8 principles revolve around the complete development of a child. And with that, we talk about sense of belongingness, attitude of gratitude, and these 8 principles are social development, emotional development, physical development, spiritual development, language development, and one skill development, habitual and habit and routine also. So now what happens, each month is dedicated to one of the principles, and throughout the year, and we are trying to do that over online also. So every day students are doing pranayam exercises. Every day students twice in a week they are doing Surya Namaskar, and lot of meditation, as our chairperson Mrs. Alka Sharma and I also take a lot of meditation sessions. So we do that with our teachers also, because if we are equipped to do this, then we are empowering our teachers to do that, and then it is percolating down. And since the teachers are very, very close to all our students, so it is a kind of a very congenial and bonhomie atmosphere in the school. So what in all the 3 schools, so all the principals, as principals, we are at the gate talking and greeting our students early morning, half an hour before we are there. So little ones are very, very excited to see us, and I get a lot of messages on my phone, and I'm sure other principals also get it. They miss us in the school. So students are missing us, we are missing our teachers, we are missing our students. So, and at the same point in time, we are there to actually do a lot of things with our teachers. So whether it is an empowerment workshop, whether it is mental well-being of their, and we are very, very clear about the mental well-being and happiness of our teachers. So our chairperson and our director, Mr. Sharma, so we are very clear that after the teachers have reached home after 2 o'clock, it is very, very rare that we call them for any work. So it is a kind of atmosphere that when they are coming to school, they are leaving all their baggages outside the school, and they are giving their 100% to the students, and students and teachers, they have a very beautiful relationship. So it is not the teachers are not the source of referral, I would say here, because teachers are the one who are taking care of their emotional and mental well-being. If there is any issue, if a child is facing any challenge at home, so our teachers are the first one who know that what is happening with the child, and then they will share it with me or the headmistress, or we will talk to the parents, is there something happening with the child? So, and having said that, so very, very important quote, I love this quote and I will share it here. And that is said by Nicholas Ferrance, that the children who are loved at home come to school to learn, but who aren't come to school to be loved. So we have to create that home-like atmosphere, and I'm glad that we have created that in our 3 schools. So wherein we have a very conducive and happy teachers, happy students, and happy management atmosphere. So I had to just say this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Neelmani already spoken about the teacher-student relationship and how beautiful it can be at times. Like, students saying thank you. I'm sure it must be giving you a lot of.
Reena, since we have some time, I thought let's ponder over some of these thoughts. I think some brilliant thoughts have come through, both Dr. Mittal and Dr. Vasudha, that I heard each one of you, and it's brilliant. I think I say that the teachers are the silent warriors of the pandemic these days. I think starting from the principals to the teachers, and I must actually congratulate each one of you, because this kind of crisis what these teenagers or the early childhood students are facing, none have ever witnessed it. None of us who are in this panel.
Absolutely.
I think early years, and I'm also thinking about this could be in the economics terms. You can look at this close to the Great Depression. So not only are the parents having an issue at home, there isn't a great environment, because in the corporate there are issues, there are so many job losses happening, there are so many issues to handle the caregiving at home, elderly living at home, there are no possibly households that used to be there. So a child, in spite of all that, they are getting engaged with this particular time. So it is very pertinent, and like you're saying, that we cannot stigmatize this. If there is an issue, there is an issue. We all realize that we are all human beings and we are at the threshold. The people who are at the threshold, we are very happy feeling that we do not have a problem. But the moment we push away a problem, it becomes a problem. So ideally, I think this kind of an approach where you're talking about nurturing style of leadership, which is very important in schools. A teacher, the learning experience is also about the love, compassion, patience. So I think brilliant. I think we are having a great dialogue, and with your experience, that what your views are actually going to take the school to the next level. And I know each one of you are in touch with now the board examinations, what CBSE, ICSE, and other boards are planning to do. So in spite of all that you are able to see that what is the future of your own students. So each one of them, either of them could be a Vivekananda or a Steve Jobs, or any of them may emerge out of your schools. So these years are so critical.
Adding to what Dr. Banerjee you said, that I heard that you have worked something on positivity and gratitude. So I have developed a curriculum based around the gratitude curriculum, and my children were following it for 3 years. And now over the broadcast messages, when we are sending them those gratitude exercises, so there is a lot of change in the home environment also, because as you said, because of the laying off of the jobs or financial issues at home, there is a lot of atmosphere of stress at home. So when a child is being taught to extend the gratitude to the mother, to the parents, or parents are asked to pay gratitude to each other. So I think it makes a lot of difference, and that is that is the message that my chairperson, she has worked all through 30 years on that. And that attitude of gratitude is must these days. And it is very, very imperative that we all follow that, because these are the challenging times for all of us, all over the globe, I feel. And that's it. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Guys, I think this gratitude that we are talking about, it is very close to my heart, because, in this book, like Dr. Reena is talking about, I have come out with the optimistic intelligence.
Awesome.
So along with your, IQ and EQ that you talk about, it is actually your optimism that pushes your way through. So what is it? It builds your resilience. So we have to let our students, build their own resilience in school. So great, Reena, you can now take it to the next level.
Yes, Mr. Indranath Sinha is here. And incidentally, we've been talking a lot about student-teacher relationship. And my next question is also related to that. So student-teacher relationship is important, we all know. But what impact does it have on the mental health of the student? That I wanted to know from Mr. Sinha.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nigam. And in fact, I must thank the entire Amity University and congratulate you for actually conducting a show like this. And thanks to Sachin, I was having a lot of audio issues at the beginning. Now, I guess I'm audible to everyone. Now, the topic that you gave to me is pretty good, like to see the impact. I'll rather divide the whole thing into 4 segments. When a child comes to school, because today's presentation is the discussion is particularly on the mental health of a child that we are discussing. So when a child comes to school, what are the problems or the mental health related issues he or she has? Then when the child studies in the school, what happens? Then what's the role of a teacher? Finally, how the teacher handles and what's the impact of the whole scenario, right? So without wasting much of my time, let's start with the beginning. When a child comes to school, about 20 years ago, the situation was different. Parents would admit their children, and thereafter, the child would study in the same school throughout, till up to class 10 or 12, where the school could continue up to. But these days, in every city, every small town, the situation is a little different. Parents do intend to change school after 2 years, 3 years. So what happens in the businesses, we tend to take admissions in different classes. So we have children in the age group of 3. So when they come to school, we assess their academic abilities, the academic proficiency that they have. But what we leave is the mental health. I don't think any school assesses the mental health of the child. And this mental health actually includes the emotional, the psychological, and the social well-being. This is something which affects how the child thinks, how the child feels, how the child acts. And it also helps to determine how everybody, mental health is related not only to a child, but to every adult. So how we handle stress-related situations in life and how we actually continue with our life. So this mental health starts from early childhood, goes to adolescent, then to adults. Then even at old age, people do have mental health related issues. In school, I will be specific now, in school, we handle mental health of children in the age group between 2-3 years to about 18 years. And the factors, when a child comes to school, the factors that governs the mental health of a child, number 1 is the biological factor. That's the gene the child inherits from his parents, the complexity of the brain, the family history of the mental health problem, These are basically nothing a child can do about. It's simply what they inherit from their parent. Second factor that affects the mental health of a child is the trauma, the abuse a child faces in life. The third factor, the problem with neighbors, relatives. There are issues that a child undergoes or faces in life, inside the house, outside the house. Then one more important factor is the relationship of a child with the parents and the relationship between the parents. If the relationship between the parents is not good, it affects the mental health of a child. Then, of course, there are socio-economic issues, the economical issues of the family, how well off they are, how affluent they are, how weak, economically weak they are. All these factors also affect. And finally, when we admit children in higher classes, 11 and 12, then the friend circle of the child does have an impact on the mental health of a child. Now it comes the second situation. When a child is studying in the school, what are the different, and one of the most important factors, I'll say, is the gap between the expectations and the fulfillment of expectations. Expectations, one is self-expectation. I plan to do something. And what a child faces more than this is the expectations of the parents. There are times when unfulfilled dreams of the parents want to realize it through their children. A child is not interested in studying or let's say going for engineering, but the parents want the child to go for engineering. Poor child, he or she may be interested in literature, want to write poetry, but the insistence, the harping upon the child by the parent, that creates a lot of mental disturbance. Then the second factor, which I suppose everybody will agree with, is the social media. The impact the social media has on a child. These days, when you look at children, every now and then, whether they are sitting with you, sitting with parents, friends, everybody will be glued to the mobile phone. And this has a tremendous impact because for us, if we post something on Facebook, we don't bother what people write about it, how many people like it, how many don't like it. But for children and those in the age group between, let's say, in the adolescent period between 13, even to adults in the age group of 20s and 30s, for them, the number of likes is more important than anything on earth. If you look at these adolescents, when they visit a restaurant to eat, they're not concerned about the taste of the food, what they're going to eat. First and foremost, they'll click a photograph, they'll upload it. If they're traveling somewhere, before they enter the airport, the first message that you will see on Facebook, traveling to so-and-so place. They don't want to enjoy the flight. They don't want to see the scenic beauty from the window of the flight. What they are interested in is in posting things. So they live in a virtual world. They don't live in the real world. They won't talk to people who are sitting next to them, but they will be more interested in chatting with somebody who may not be a real friend, maybe only a virtual friend. And this has a tremendous impact. I mean, children these days, we call them emotionally, they are weak. And this social media perhaps has created one of the reasons that has actually created it. Then, of course, there are other issues which are actually very, very problematic for the child, like the kind of vehicles the parents own. That depends upon the affluency of the family. They will discuss what kind of phones you have. They'll discuss which brand of casual clothes you wear. And if their friend circle actually depend upon this, the stature of the family in the society and what the earning of the family is, their friend circle, if a child is not up to that level financially, they'll say, no, you don't come in our group because you don't own an iPhone. So these things actually have a lot of effect in the mental health of a child. And I don't know how many of you have worked in schools which are actually boarding school, but they entertain day scholars as well. There are schools where we have boarders plus day scholars. In these schools, I've seen, like personally I've worked and I've seen, there's a discrimination between boarders and day scholars where co-curricular activities and games and sports are concerned. Boarders are always given preference over day scholars. And that actually, if a day scholar child is good in any of these fields, maybe any co-curricular activity or any games and sport, then they feel a little let down. Come on, I'm good at something. I'm not being. So this is what happens with a child inside the school. Now comes the most important part, that's the role of a teacher. When we think of a school, there will be a principal, we all understand, there will be a headmaster, there will be a vice principal, some office staff, some reception people, some subordinate staff. But when we imagine a school, it's always students and teachers. You imagine, close your eyes and imagine a school, it will always be teachers and students. So we say there's a saying that goes very well: parents are the first teachers and teachers are the second parent. And today's the parents are not being able to handle their children themselves, and they leave the onus on the school. It's our duty. I've seen children coming to me, coming to teachers. My father doesn't understand me. My mother doesn't give me this, because parents don't understand. They don't perhaps have the time, or they don't know what the child at a particular age is actually looking forward to. So the duty. Now, teachers have diversified work to do, and for them, being a teacher, I consider myself also as a teacher. So the first advice is they have to know a child looking physically fit doesn't always mean child is mentally healthy. That's the first thing. So health is not only absence of disease. Health is something, it's a resource within us, which actually help us realize our dreams, realize our aspirations. They help us cope with the environment, and health will finally ensure we'll live a long, productive, and fruitful life. So this is one area where teachers need to concentrate upon. Is the child suffering from some kind of mental health issue, some problem? Because these problems are very, very common, but very, very difficult to identify, to know exactly whether the child is. So some of the symptoms which I was just trying to jot down is like child who is suffering, like it's more like depression. You know, somebody under depression, it's very difficult to identify the person is under depression. So to know that, being a teacher, you have to look for certain traits in a child. If a child eats too much at a particular age, if a child is eating more than required, or the child is sleeping too much, which they can easily come to know from the parents, then there is something wrong. Similarly, a child in classroom should be very, very active. Like a calf in front of the cow, they are supposed to be jumping around. If a calf is quiet, you cannot believe it. Similarly, children inside the classroom should be jumping around. But if a particular child tries to pull away from the crowd or doesn't usually participate in all activities, there must be something wrong. Then energy level. Children are supposed to be a bundle of energies. And if they don't have that much energy, definitely there has to be something wrong with the child. Then they have, sometimes children will complain of, something unexplained kind of aches and pains. They don't have anything, they just want to visit the infirmary and lie down over there. Then there are children in higher classes who feel helpless, hopeless about their life. Then, sometimes they're just forgetful and all these things do happen. So the role of a teacher comes, I hope I'm not exceeding the time, the last 2 to 3 minutes, 2 minutes I'll take. Okay. All right. Now, first thing that a teacher needs to do, apart from that, the most important part is promoting the mental health of children. How they do it is, one is mentalization. That actually is a constant process. You attempt to know the experience of a child. Being a teacher, you have to sit down and reflect over the day. Like if a particular child shows some kind of abnormal behavior, you have to know, come close to the child, come to know the experience of a child. And once you know that, you give that child a comfort zone where he or she becomes very, very open with you. They discuss their problems, and then the entire scenario changes inside the classroom. Right. That bond, this is a very, very delicate bond.
Into the changes in the behavior.
Correct. The bond between a teacher and a student is a very delicate bond. So you have to handle it very, very carefully. You don't overstep and you don't stay aloof also. Then there are certain things we just need to be very, very explicit about. Right? Something to do like yoga and all. Dr. Vasudha actually spoke about yoga. That's very good actually to cope up with stress. Then there are other things that we all do perhaps in our schools, talk to children as much as possible, to trust somebody at home, trust their friends, and they can share that with them. All these things.
Very important points coming up from Sinha.
Yeah, I think it is a great point, Dr. Sinha. Your talk, you've talked a lot about the behavioral aspects, which is very important, like observation. I think when, as a senior, leader, teachers, when you see that what is the kind of behavior and attitude of students, and through that, how are you able to screen students having mental health issues? I think that's wonderful. And one important point that you have made about the role of this whole media and social media, while I don't know, we can go on for debating on that, but today also we are also safe because of the media and the digital revolution that has happened. We have to accept that we cannot go back in time. So there will be constantly some innovations, some disruptions happening. However, we need to see that, we are using that technology as a means to the end, not as end in itself. Like, the time you're spending on social media, now you have analytics, which shows you, even to a child, they know how much time they were on Facebook, how much time they were on a YouTube video, how much time they were actually working on an assignment.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of wonderful things are happening. But one important aspect that I thought is very important in each of you that you spoke about is that connect, the engagement that you give in the school, and the connect between the teacher and the student. These two things are extremely critical. And of course, we are not even going into the aspect of family and the child rearing practices. That is beyond our means right now, because we are concentrating more on the, the student and the class. But I have seen even virtual visits happening at home is helping to understand what's going on in the family. What are the issues students are facing today? So it is a great idea to, even in the lockdown, that some of your mentors and teachers, they can connect to the family. So through that, we are not only helping your ward, and they are also able to connect to the family. And I think a great team can be developed, and we can definitely help people sitting at the threshold, people who are under stress. We'll be definitely able to help them. Wonderful, Dr. Sinha.
If we can create a charter on the kind of things that should happen during the COVID-19, I think there should be one of them, that the teacher should continue to connect with the parents as well as the students. Okay, so we are almost coming to the end of the session.
Thank you, Dr. Banerjee. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you wanted to say something, Sinha? I was just thinking that since we have very less time left, can we have
No, it's okay. It's okay.
concluding comments from our panelists, and I'll go back to Dr.
Maybe better is to have Mr. Sinha to conclude, because he's in the flow. So Mr. Sinha,
so we can ask him to conclude first.
Correct. Absolutely. I have no issues, because I had jotted down the role of a teacher in a little detailed manner, because this is something which will be more important. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead with your concluding remarks.
Can you hear me? I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, we too. Thank you.
So let's go to the next person.
So, Dr. Ashish Mittal, can we ask you to give your concluding remarks?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, and could you also
Can you,
on your video?
You are like to
right. Now, the first part was I told you about mentalization, where teachers need to understand children, and the second part. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Second part is being explicit about the strategy, right? Things that teachers need to tell the students very loud and clear.
Can we go to Vasudha, Dr. Vasudha, please? Next person.
Yeah, sure. So, yes, to conclude will be that during these challenging times or tough times of COVID-19, and as Dr. Banerjee said that, teachers are, I will focus more on teachers. Teachers are the silent warriors, and working the best for their students from home. I think they are struggling, doing a lot of multitasking also. And when we talk about mental health issues, so they must be also facing a lot of stress and lot of issues at home. But every day they greet their students, everyone, with a smile on their faces. And now coming to the technicalities criticality part of mental health issues. So being a psychologist and special educator for a very, very long time, so, and I have seen the students who were suffering, who were having little attention deficit issues and other issues, and they were prescribed some medicines. So, or when we are talking about mental health issues in the adults also. So, when it comes to the medication, so when we talk about the medication part very, very seriously, so there are a lot of stereotypes attached to it, there are a lot of myths attached to it. So I think there are they have to take it in that stride, that if we are having some physical illness or we have fever, so we are given some medication to take care of that. So if at all if things are taken care of with the counseling, if things are taken care of with the motivation, behavior modification plans, fair enough. But if a child or a human, adults also need little medication, they have to go ahead with that. And when we are talking about again talking about these mental health issues, so and especially coming lot of issues are coming up within these times. And when you see the Human Rights Commission reports or everything, so there are increased cases of domestic violence also. So that is also an example of having big little mental issues, because we are so frustrated, we don't know where to take out the frustration on. So my take would be just that let this time pass, and let's be in gratitude, let's be positive. And I would definitely read Dr. Banerjee's book, because these things really intrigue me a lot when it talks about optimism, positivity, and that's the way forward, optimism and positivity. And I strongly believe in law of attraction, where it says that we manifest positivity and negativity at the same time. So whatever we think, whatever we are, so that becomes the action. So my message to everyone here is let's wait for the best times. And of course, there will be a sunrise, and tough times don't last, tough people do. So my concluding note is this only, and I congratulate the Amity team for such an enlightening session, and well done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me, Dr. Reena?
Yes.
So I would like to conclude with a few lines, because we all have been talking about the teachers' efforts. Nowadays, we can see that the teachers are the silent barriers, rightly said by Dr. Banerjee, because I think what I feel that the teachers are the best managers who actually can manage the crisis like the way we are doing. And all the teachers, I am pretty sure that all the teachers are doing hard work, even than ever. So I would like to conclude that the relation between the teacher and the student is quite important for having a mental good health and the well-being of our child. And positive teacher-student relationships enable students to feel safe and secure in their learning environments, and provide funding for important social and academic skills. And the students who have a positive relationship with his or her teacher tend to benefit academically and socially as well. Okay. And I would like to just conclude with the 2 lines more, which is from the Sanskrit shlok. One must always be prepared for the worst situation. It is too late to show concern and take remedial steps after facing a calamity. Just like it is futile to dig a well when the house is already on fire. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sinha, can we have your concluding remark? And I'm sorry, we are short of time, so could you just wrap it up quickly?
Yeah, I'll just cut it short. What we say, life is not a smooth sail. So like we are combating COVID-19 now. So similarly, something like every teacher, every student, we all need to understand, like there will be difficult times and we'll get over it. And teachers, they are shaping the future now. And so all the good wishes to everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone in Amity University for having conducted such a beautiful and wonderful and show for everyone.
Thank you so much. Padmakali ma'am, can we ask you to sum up, so that there is a question that one of the attendees has asked. So ma'am, can I read that question?
Yes.
Okay, so the ma'am question is that with such lovely awakening and awareness about the need of mental health and strategies, where is the gap? And why are we not able to raise mentally healthy children?
Yeah. So before I take the question, I must tell you that first of all, my gratitude to each one of you. You are doing wonderful. And all that has come today on the table and that we have shared with so many youngsters who are attending this webinar today, that it is all your experience. So I think, remember, this is one message that I have to the young people. And we are only talking about, and India is a youthful nation. You know, we are today safe in COVID also because maximum majority of our people are young and they have the capability to fight. They have their, so basically we know this, even this virus is not able to penetrate that way and have an impact on the youthful people. But remember, I must tell you that we have really spoken about teachers, we've talked about role of principals, teachers, leaders, family, but what is your role? I think the role of you, each one of you, is much more. So remember, if you are engaged, if you are doing a creative task, you would be mentally happy and healthy. So there are no gaps. Gap is in our mind. Most of an issue, remember, happiness is an experience that you decide. It's a choice that you make. What are the things that you will choose? Even if you are a very simple exercise, we do a 21 days of a diary where you just note down 3 things that you have done which has either been made you happy or you have helped somebody. A very simple exercise of 21 days. And suddenly you will realize what are those things around you that keep you happy. The second very important thing, because many of the youngsters are listening to this, is that if you look at that within the network of people that you have, who are the people around you? Apart from your family, your peer group, do you have mentors through who you want to become like? Or are you reading enough? Are you looking at the successful people? So, nothing is between us. Each of us have come into this beautiful world, and it is your duty to make that life beautiful. Yes, wherever there are problems, anxiety, please do not hold back. I must tell you, go to the counselors, talk to people. Sometimes you have a community around. You can talk to the community to understand each other. So I think today it's so very simple. On real time, you're able to communicate. So today we all have had this session. I call it a mindful meditation because we were constantly concentrated on the views of people. We were listening to each other. We are complimenting each other. And I think I am feeling very happy. So I know whatever you do will make you feel happy. Remember, the environment is not going to make you happy or sad. It's you who are working with people. Gratitude. People are talking about happiness hormone. The time is very limited, but I must tell you, the more physical activity, like one of the members also mentioned, physical activity, connecting with people, serving people, that is one of the very good ways to become happy. And when you're happy, you are in a very positive state of mind. Even during examination, there can be a eustress, there could be a optimal level of stress that is important. So when we are doing an assignment, or even before we had this panel discussion, the technology glitches, all of them were giving us a bit of stress, but those were good stress. So creating a meaningfulness, purpose in your life will help. So I think this is great. Do we have questions? Any other questions?
No,
I received a question which was talking about almost on the similar lines that the young people, when they face a problem on issues which are not only academic issues, that could be issues related to relationship issues, issues related to sleeplessness issues when they are not able to sleep. I think the solution is, please talk to your counselor, please talk to your school, talk to your parents. Please bridge the gap. Even if they are busy, find out time. It's not just their duty, it is even your duty to connect to people.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Because we are dealing with impressionable minds. These are their very vulnerable years. So they need to seek support, and we need to be probably more sensitive towards them. With that note, I think we come to the end of the session. Thank you very much for joining in. Thank you so much, ma'am, to chair the session. And thank you very much, Dr. Ashish Mittal, Mr. Indrajit Sinha, and Dr. Vasudha Nirmani.